everyone, and welcome to another Three Girls, One Monthly Catch-Up, where we are coming to you to talk about what's been going on with us in the month of August. So we have our usual categories, and we're going to start off with any news or memories or any random things that we wanted to share with you. So Heather, anything from you that you wanted to share?
Well, I feel like I say this every month, but I didn't really do anything at all. well, okay, that's not true, but it's not very exciting for anyone other than me. So the opportunity came up in August for me to buy the home that I've been living in for like 20 years. And so I've been doing paperwork and going back and forth to solicitors and meeting with mortgage advisors and all that kind of stuff. So that and just sitting on my ass watching an awful lot of telly and reading a lot of books has been my August pretty much.
Sounds great to me.
Awesome. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. Yay! That's so awesome.
That's so
cool. Very excited.
My only real thing in August was back at the beginning of the month. I went to Colorado because it was my brother-in-law's military retirement. So he had a big retirement ceremony, obviously, and party and everything. And so my parents and I all went out to celebrate his retirement, which was very cool and fun. And so I was in Colorado for a weekend. But aside from that, it's been a pretty low-key month. It's sort of, the wind down part of summer where you don't do quite as much, which has been kind of nice because July was really, really crazy busy. So yeah, it's been pretty chill.
Okay. On to Tarot and Oracle. So Heather, what have you been using?
I haven't used Oracle this month really, but I did spend the whole month with the Unfolding Path Tarot, which we talked quite a bit about, I think, in the live that we did recently, which is on Sarah's channel, I think, if people haven't watched it and want to watch the replay. But yeah, so I've basically been playing with this deck a lot. And I have to say, I'm a little bit in love. It is just really, really beautiful. And I keep saying this. I say this every time I mention this deck. I'll probably say it to death because that's what I do. It is genuinely the most diverse deck I own. It may not be the most diverse deck out there. There's probably ones that are more diverse that I'm not aware of, but it's got like a whole range of skin colors and races and genders and ages and body sizes. It's got disabilities represented. It's got, sexualities represented. It's just a really, really lovely deck. It's not, I don't know if it's a deck that I would carry on using as like a day-to-day, everyday kind of earthy kind of reading. It's got a really spiritual, like macrocosmy. Is that the right way around? Yeah, like a macrocosmy feel to it. And that's basically it. And I've not really done, to be fair, I've really only done daily draws with it and a new moon or a full moon reading. I missed one, and I did a new moon reading because I missed both of the full moons that we had in August because I'm that organised. I really like it, but I just don't feel drawn to do too much reading with it right now.
I've been working with, several decks. I mentioned last month that I had started working with the African Goddess Oracle and pulling a couple cards for the month. And so I continued on for another month doing that. And so the two cards I pulled were Ma'at, Giving and Receiving, and then Satira Brazen. So these two actually were very applicable, resonated quite a bit for me this month, especially the brazen card, maybe in a shadowy sense. So that was something to work on. And then something else that I've been working with this for the last, I don't know how many months, and I just keep forgetting to talk about it, which is my own little animal oracle deck that I made. So I've been pulling an animal each month and learning a little bit more about it. So for August, it was the downy woodpecker, which I see a lot of these in my yard. So it was fun to get to kind of learn a little bit more about this animal. Yeah, and just like tarot, I would say the one that was fun was the Ethereal Visions. So I've used this before. No, it's not new.
Is that the Luna
edition? Yeah, I prefer the Luna edition to the original, just for the color palette. I love the more like purple palette, and definitely like the hollow. So yeah, this was just, it's an easy deck to use. Because it is very, RWS, and I think I was in a like Art Nouveau mood or something. I don't know. I just wanted something like aesthetic and pretty, and so this definitely did that for me. But then I will say the deck that I actually used the most and have weird feelings about is one that was gifted to me by a friend for my birthday, the Oracle of Light and Dreams. And I talked about this a little bit in my last 10 decks video, where I was saying how I would not, I understand why she got this for me, because it is, very kind of fantasy. So here are it's pretty. It is pretty. So here are the backs. I think are pretty. And it's very fantasy. She knows me well enough to know that I like, fantasy, and it's also very kind of the figures are very kind of doll-like and pretty. But I don't think she thought much beyond that. She saw the box. She she saw the pictures, and so I gave this a try, and I looked on the artist's website to learn a little bit more about him. And so it turns out that this is pre-existing art, which in and of itself is not necessarily a problem for me, because I do think you can make, a deck with pre-existing art, if you put effort into it. This, though, so first of all, the titles, they're just the titles of his art pieces.
Oh.
So they don't even I mean, you know what I mean in terms of like how an oracle would be used. Like, these are just the titles of his pieces. Which, so for example, you have really telling here. So you have Kingfisher, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Kingfisher 2 as the title. So it's just kind of like
that's just laziness.
That's bonkers. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
So I'm like, okay, well then, all right, let's see how the, guidebook works with these titles, if at all. And a lot of times it don't, it doesn't. Like, so for instance, Descendants, you would think that the guidebook description would have something to do with descendants, or something. Not really. Peony, no mention of peony in the message. It's if anything, he talks about the symbolism of the serpent. And I thought, oh, okay, is there like flower language in here? Or is he going to talk about, the Victorian flower language? No, nothing at all. Not even. I was like working with it and using it. I really found that the messages, even though, so basically what I had to do was just like disregard that the title meant anything and just read the messages, which were actually they resonated a lot when I would pull. So this deck was like, I really don't like you. I kind of also love you a little bit, and I'm enjoying you.
Have you considered like retitling the cards?
I don't know if that's work I want to do, honestly.
Fair enough.
And again, another thing, it's a very homogeneous deck.
Yeah,
as you can tell. So that's another thing. Was like, okay, but I just remember when the very first time I had it out in line of sight, because I'm like, okay, I want to give this, I have to remember to try to work with this. And there was one particular evening, It was a very tough evening. Blood was shooting out of my eyes. There was, just a ongoing conflict that I've been having. And I'm just like, okay, biatch, I'm pulling you right now. And this is no soft launch. You're going to give me a message. Let's see how this goes. And the message it gave me was this one, Woodland, which once again, title means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But the message was very, well, first of all, I feel like the image was just calming.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the main thing about these images, that they're really calming.
Mm-hmm.
And then the message was about nothing about woodlands, but like just patience and acceptance. And so that was really actually a message that I needed. So it's been a weird relationship with this deck. I don't know, but it's one that I like worked with, like I would say the longest this month out of all of them. So for me, the way I'm using it is that, okay, I'm going into this knowing that I'm not going to be like, these images aren't going to be evoking any like symbolism or anything for me to read into. It's just like, oh, it's a pretty image. It's calming. And now I'm just going to use this worthless title to look up the message in the guidebook, which will ultimately make me feel better. Roundabout process of
the tarot deck that I've been working with the most in August would have to be this one, which is the Fantasy Garden Tarot. I am really, really in love with this deck. I just think it's stunningly beautiful. I don't know, something about the artwork. It just has a real feel of, again, strong sense of place. Sarah back on her bullshit. I don't know how many times I've said those freaking words, but it's one of my favorite things in a tarot deck, and I absolutely love this one. And it all takes place in this beautiful sort of formal garden. All of the suit symbols are sort of represented as like this large kind of garden statuary, and it's just so
pretty,
beautiful. I mean, it is beautiful, and the artist who did this did all of the artwork in ballpoint pen, which blows my freaking mind.
I remember you saying.
It's just, I don't know how, but it's just a really beautiful deck, and so I've had a lovely time working with this one. It's a gorgeous place to spend some time in this garden. So anyway, so that's been the real highlight tarot deck for me. And again, it's very Rider-Waite-Smith in terms of, how you read it. It's very much about aesthetics and the way that the suit symbols are represented. It's just very much about the artwork. So, it's definitely an easy read. And I've had a really wonderful time with it. So that one's gorgeous. And then I've been also drawing a card from this deck pretty much every day. And I don't know, I really love this little deck. I was not expecting to have as much of a connection with it as I do. But the messages on it have always been really apropos anytime I draw a card from it, which is pretty much daily. And I've never even like flipped through the entire deck. Like I literally received it and then just started drawing a card every day. Mm-hmm. So even now I'm like holding up cards that I've never even seen before because I haven't drawn them yet. But I kind of liked just going into this deck that way with just like, like a totally no knowledge, just a little kind of sense of adventure, I guess. So yeah, I really like this one. This was a real surprise for me in terms of just one of these little cute rock pool decks, actually finding myself having a really strong connection with it.
So next up, we are going to talk about books.
Well, I don't have any books to show because all of the books are like ebooks and audiobooks I've done this month. I read loads. I think I read like 10 books in August.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to talk about all of them because we're here all day, but I actually don't know if there was any, like I had a good reading month, but I just had a good reading month. Nothing really stood out as great. Nothing was terrible. I go through stages though where I go on this like mystery thriller kick and it's all I want to read and I read them really fast. Like I normally read them in a sitting or two sittings, and so that's how I end up reading so much in 1 month because I'm like, I finished that one, where's the next one? Finish that one, and then I go to the library and I grab a few or whatever. So mainly I read a lot of that. I did do the A Psalm for the Wild Built on audiobook by Becky Chambers in August, which is the first in the Monk and Robot duology. It's the duology, right, Sarah?
Yeah, there's only 2 so far. Yeah.
Which is really, it was just a really lovely little story about a tea monk and a robot, and it was just really easy listening. I really enjoyed that. And the other book, I guess, that was like the outlier for me, I read, it's got 2 different titles, but in the UK, it's called You and Me on Vacation. And I think in the US, it's called People You Meet on Vacation, or it's the other way around. But it's by Emily Henry. It's a romance about these 2 friends who've gone on holiday every year together. And then like a few years ago, something happened and they haven't spoken. And they go on holiday again, and they clearly are in love with each other, but don't communicate with each other, which
is my favorite thing
my favorite thing in the whole world. But there were things I liked. So I'm discovering that, because I really like Emily Henry, and I read an Emily Henry last year and I loved it. It was like one of my very few 5-star reads of the year because it was so good. Because even though these characters don't communicate, they're adults. She writes like real adults, which I appreciate. But I think I'm just figuring out what type of romance works for me and what doesn't, and what I enjoy and what I don't. Miscommunication I really don't like, because I just think it's lazy, and I just think like it frustrates me in TV programs as well, where somebody starts to tell you something that's apparently so important, but the other person goes, I don't want to hear it, and it's so important that you just go, okay, fine, I won't tell you then, even though it's really important that you hear this piece of information.
And then the entire conflict revolves around the fact that the one person doesn't. Yeah.
It's like, people don't behave like that in real life. So that infuriates me. But there are things I really like. Like, I really like Friends to Lovers, I'm discovering I quite like. And I quite like that forced proximity thing, you know, when they go on holiday and they end up in a place where there's only one bed, or I kind of quite enjoy that. And
classic trope.
Yeah, so there are tropes that I'm discovering that I really enjoy, and tropes that I really don't enjoy. Enemies to lovers, depending on how it's done, I can do. Like, apparently there's this whole bully to lovers thing. I'm like, no, I'm never going to be up for that.
Oh yeah, I don't think I would.
I'm never going to enjoy that. That doesn't sound like my thing.
No.
And also, I need like light, fun, fluffy. Like, I can't do too much erotic stuff. It's just, I suffer from the worst secondhand embarrassment. I get secondhand embarrassment so easily that it just makes me uncomfortable if it gets too
explicit,
detailed and explicit, and I'm like, no, I can't do it. So I'm also discovering that my secondhand embarrassment is just too. It's just, there's a line of what I can handle before I'm like, no.
That explains a lot about why you've always felt like romance isn't your thing. So
yeah,
it does. Yeah. I DNF'd a few books. One that I managed to finish in the month of August is one that my mother-in-law actually wanted me to read. She gave me her and it's Interior Chinatown. By Charles Yu. This won the National Book Award in 2020. And I never heard of this book before, but when she last came to visit, she was saying how her book club had read this book and she thought it was just really interesting and she wanted to get my opinion on it. And this was then after she proceeded to tell me the ending, which I'm like, you why?
That was the wrong way to go about this.
I am glad I read it. It's so Charles Yu, he he's written other novels and such, and I think he was like a script director for some episodes of Westworld. So he's been in like Hollywood industry, and I think they're going to make a show out of this. Last I heard, anyway. So what's interesting about this? So it's about this Asian American named Willis Wu, and he lives in this like small apartment in Chinatown, and every day he goes to work on the set. of, it's this restaurant, and it's the set of this like procedural show called Black and White. And so he plays the same generic roles. He gets stuck in the same generic roles of like generic Asian man, and he's basically trying to work his way up. His goal is to become Kung Fu guy. That's his goal.
Okay.
So obviously, this is a very kind of overt way of the author examining the Asian American experience, and what comes along with assimilation, what comes along with racism, and all those things, right? And so, and what's also interesting is that it's written in screenplay form.
Oh, interesting.
So,
Okay.
so that was very interesting. So it was actually a pretty fast read, just because pages look like this. So,
Right.
which helped my case. I mean, otherwise, because reading's been hard for me lately, just to stay focused. So it was. I enjoyed it. I think it definitely. I'm wondering if my mother-in-law, when she wanted to know what I thought of it, it's like, are you asking me whether I can relate to this? Like, what? Because this is like maybe the first and only time you've been adamant about me, reading the novel. So, but yeah.
It just happens to be about an Asian person.
An Asian person.
And I can share my ethnicity, so so that's interesting.
Kind of like, okay. And I'm glad that she, recommended it to me, because otherwise I wouldn't have known about it. I don't think it would have ever come onto my radar. And I am glad I read it. And she also said that if you like, so I've never watched Westworld, but she said that she could tell by reading this that it doesn't surprise her that he had work in Westworld. That he did script directing in Westworld. Yeah. So
I believe he has written some other novels.
Yes.
More on like the side, more like kind of on the edge of science fiction.
Yes.
Like literary fiction kind of crossed over with science fiction is what I understand. I've never read any of his work, but that's what I understand about him as an author. So
yeah, I've never read any of his work up until now either. So, but yeah, I did enjoy it, and it was a good read.
I finished his last month. We talked about this, and I had just only read about half of it, but I finished Fourth Wing, which is the Dragon War college romance novel that everybody is apparently reading. And that book was a damn good read. Like, it was not great literature, but it was a damn good read. And it ends on a great cliffhanger. And I am totally going to read the next one. And like, I enjoyed it. Like, what can I say? Like, it's a very choppy romance novel that takes place at a Dragon War college, and I'm all about that shit. So like I just really enjoyed it.
I can't wait to read it. That is towards the top of my to read.
I think you're gonna really enjoy it.
Actually, I will. So I'm pretty sure I will.
Yeah, it was a really fun read. And then since the discussion that we also had about Heather had read Gideon the Ninth, and we had a whole discussion about the sequel to that book, Harrow the Ninth, and I had sort of started it and wasn't sure whether or not I was going to DNF it or not, but there were a couple of comments on our last video where people had said, yeah, it's hard to get into it, but it does have a payoff, like it does eventually make sense, so just for what that's worth. And so I thought, you know what, because I hate DNFing books, like I hate doing it. So I just started over, and I'm actually at this point, like, I'm over halfway through it. It still doesn't make sense yet, a lot of it, but now that I know that there is a payoff, and it's not like my fault it doesn't make sense, it's actually not supposed to make sense yet, and there is like an eventual explanation for everything that's going on, I've sort of like been giving it another chance, and I'm actually just sort of like sitting in the story and like enjoying it and letting it kind of like wash over me this time around. And like when something doesn't make sense, I'm just like, okay, that's noted, filed away, and then just like keep going. And so it actually is like this time around I'm finding it more compelling, and I'm actually interested to finish it. So I'm doing much better this time around, and I feel like I am actually going to finish it. And so that is the other book that I have been reading, is Harrow the Ninth.
On to the next category, TV and movie. So Heather, what have you been watching in the last month?
Oh, again, I did quite a lot. I don't know. This is why when you say, "What did you do this month?" I'm like, nothing. All I did this month was read and watch the telly. So I watched. What did I watch? What films did I watch? I watched Zom 100, which is a Japanese film based on a Japanese manga. It's a live action. It's not anime. It's live action, and it was about zombies. Obviously, this guy. It was really good. This guy, he goes to his job, and it turns out it's one of these companies in Japan that are really like abusive, and they treat their staff really badly, and they expect them to work till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and he's really excited to go for his first day, and then he very quickly ends up hating his job. And then the zombie apocalypse happens, and he's really excited because he doesn't have to go to work anymore. And he writes this like bucket list of things that he wants to do before he becomes a zombie. And his like little catchphrase is, "I'd rather be bitten by a zombie than not do or whatever." It was so much fun. It was one of those really light-hearted, fun films that just bordered on the ridiculous. There is a moment towards the end with a shark. I mean, it was ridiculous. Honestly, the most ridiculous thing I've seen on TV for a very long time. But it was just so funny that you just didn't care. Oh, well, I didn't care. So that was really good fun. And then series-wise, I watched quite a bit, but I finished Good Omens Season 2, which I liked, actually. I really enjoyed. I really like the fact that they didn't try and make it a sequel to Good Omens. Like it's just Azrael and Crowley, and then everybody else from the first one has gone because that storyline's done, and there's nothing really to add to it. And it's not like, because I don't know if people know, but so Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman had ideas for a second novel, which they just never got around to writing. And this isn't it, but this is like a series that bridges between the first novel and what they want to do for their second novel. And this is like the bridge in the middle. I thought it was really well done. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really excited for a season 3, and we'll be really annoyed if we don't get one. And then I also watched Lockwood Co and got halfway through the series before I discovered that it had been cancelled and they weren't getting a season 2, and I was really annoyed about that. But then I had to finish it because I'd started watching it. So
My turn. So what would I do for TV? I've been watching this Korean show called Uncanny Counter at the suggestion of Heather. So I won't talk too much about that. I don't even know how to I would not even know how to describe this plot premise. Just Google it. It's a lot of paranormal shit and that kind of stuff.
Isn't it like ghost hunters working at a noodle shop?
The evil spirit. Yeah, they hunt evil spirits. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a great story.
I haven't even seen it, but that's how I remember Heather describing it to me, and I was like, that sounds really good, but I still haven't gotten around to it yet. But I will eventually. So
in terms of movies, we watched a few, and I mean, Matt and I have been doing kind of a Studio Ghibli run of just watching or rewatching Studio Ghibli. A lot of these are very new to him. I don't think he's watched actually any of these before. So for the first time, he had watched, Spirited Away and Kiki's Delivery Service. He fell asleep during Princess Mononoke, which is one of my favorites.
Yeah, that one's
so that's one I haven't actually seen yet.
He needs to at some point catch up on that. Anyway, so the last few months we've been doing that, and I would say that for August, my personal favorite of the ones that we rewatched is The Secret World of Arrietty.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
No, I haven't seen that one either.
It's cute. I like it. So apparently it's based on a novel called The Borrowers. I never knew that this novel existed.
Oh, The Borrowers.
Oh my God, I love that book.
Mary Horton or Mary? Yeah,
Mary Norton. Yeah, The Borrowers.
Yeah,
it's inspired by that story. That
no kidding.
Oh,
yeah, I didn't know that either. And so it's basically about this little this little teenage girl, and by little I mean she's like 4 inches tall. She lives with her parents under the floorboards of like an English, like a human, you know, belonging to actual like normal sized humans, and and they call themselves borrowers because they sneak into, you know, the human's home and borrow things that they need to survive. Anyway, so she is spotted by a human boy that comes to live at the house, and they develop a friendship. You know, she is always told that she's supposed to keep their existence secret, but you know, she develops this friendship with this human boy named Sol, but because now their existence is exposed, like the little people, the borrowers, kind of, you know, then results in, you know, trouble and danger for Arrietty and her family. So I just thought it was really cute. I
had no idea there was a Studio Ghibli version of The Borrowers.
Me neither, but now I'm going to go and find it.
I've got to watch this now. I had no idea.
So I'm pretty sure it's Studio Ghibli.
I mean, Julie, I think you should read or find the film of The Borrowers, because it sounds like you would really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, after I realized that, I'm like, oh, maybe I should read this, because I had no idea.
I somehow had like no attention span to watch like anything in August.
It happens.
Do you know what I spent almost the whole month watching? Is National Geographic shark shows on Disney Plus. Every fucking shark show that exists on Disney Plus, I have probably watched at this point.
I thought you were frightened of sharks, Sarah.
I am frightened of sharks, which is why I'm really fascinated by shark shows. So, I'm very interested in them. So I've watched like all the shark shows. That's like all I watched in August. Was like every shark show in existence. So yeah.
Why not? That's great.
Yeah. I wish I could say what the standout ones were, but I watched so many I don't even remember what they were called. It was just like what's the next recommended shark show? Cool, here we go. I don't know.
Wow.
That's what I spent August doing.
All right.
I had no other attention span other than 45-minute shark special on some shark somewhere. So anyway.
Any fun facts to share that you learned?
Yes, I learned. Did you know that there is a kind of shark called a cookie cutter shark? And it takes perfectly round bites out of, and like apparently it usually preys on, they like live really, really deep down and then they come up at night. And like if you go to like seafood markets in Tokyo and stuff like that, like tuna will have these perfectly round bites taken out of them by these cookie cutter sharks. It literally looks like you just went in with and like cut out a cylinder of I learned about cookie cutter sharks. That was
wow.
I had never heard of.
Okay, that
is really interesting though.
Is that interesting? I had never even heard of it.
Terrifying, yeah.
I mean, they don't, they're not that big and they don't like bite people.
Okay, well that's good.
They're really weird looking. So
I'll have to Google that.
Yeah, so that was a new one for me. And then there was one that I watched that was about sharks around the around Pitcairn Island, which is like really, really remote Pacific Island. It's like the island where all of the bounty mutineers eventually settled, and there's only like 50 people who live there. And there's lots of weird stuff about that place, but it was just a really interesting show about like what even 50 people living on an island can do to like the ecosystem surrounding the area, and so that was a really interesting one too. But anyway, there was lots of interesting sharks I learned.
Okay, so then final category we have is hobbies. Anything that you want to share?
No, I haven't really done. I say TV. Even hobby wise, all I've really been doing is TV wise. So I watched Beauty and the Beast in Korean on Disney Plus with Korean subtitles.
Nice.
And then I watched Frozen in Korean with no subtitles because I tried putting the subtitles on and the subtitles didn't match the words they were saying, and it was so confusing that I just had to turn the subtitles off in the end. So that is my new thing. I'm now going through all the Disney films that I've seen, which is basically all of them. All the Disney films I've seen more than once. which is still basically all of them, and watching them again, but with Korean audio.
Well, for me, I haven't really. Yeah, I did take up needling, like felt needling. I think that's what it's called.
Needle felting.
Needle felting.
Yes.
Okay. Needle felting. So I received for my birthday, it was this like needle felting, I guess, kit. And it's one of those kits where it's like all in Japanese. There are no English instructions. They give you a QR code to go look on YouTube, but it's just some random YouTuber who happens to be doing their kit in Japanese with no captioning, and I'm just trying to figure it out as I go along. So I just started on, it's like a little cat or something, and I basically have the shape of a head. And I'll keep you posted on how that goes. I mean, there's not really much to show. I already broke a needle. It's simultaneously like cathartic to be stabbing. But then also it's hard work.
It is.
After time, I'm just like, wow, my shoulders feel really stiff. I feel like I need to take a break. So
I'm not entirely sure I know what needle felting is.
it's like you can make little animals and other little objects, cute objects with these like pieces of, I guess they're like wool. I mean,
It's wool.
it is wool, but they call it
wool roving. It's called wool roving. It's basically like wool that has not, like loose wool, and felting is a process by which you agitate wool fibers and they like lock together into and so needle felting, you basically like can take a clump of just fluffy wool, and if you stab it multiple times with this little barbed needle, it just kind of sucks together into this, like,
you can shape it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I'm going to talk about fountain pen thing because I need to I'm going to show, and this is I am not trying to penable Julie guys, because this is like the coolest pen ever. So I got this new pen and I love it so much, and it's an Opus 88 pen, and I'm now kind of obsessed with Opus 88 pens. But I got this pen, and this is the Medusa pen.
Oh,
and it has, I don't know if you can see the little silver snakes on the cap.
Yeah. When you have it there, then sort of
there. So, but it's so pretty. So I got this pen, and it was like an Endless Pens exclusive, and I was really obsessed with it, and so I sort of had to have it, and I managed to get it on a really good sale. So, so I'm very obsessed with this pen, and I don't think I actually got it in August. I might have gotten it earlier than August, but August is when I have had it like inked up, and I've been using it, and I have it inked up with this ink, which is called Diamine Holly, which is like a green ink with a red sheen. So it's supposed to be Christmassy, but it also like reads venomous, so it's like perfect to go with this pen, and I freaking love it so much. So, you know what I just realized? Julie did not talk about her new doll YouTube channel.
Oh, fun.
No, she did not, which she started in August.
Oh, I did do, yeah.
What is your wildcard thing that you did in August, Julie? Oh, I didn't do anything.
I know nothing. I needle felted. And come on.
Well, I did. I did start a separate doll channel because I was feeling like if I mixed it in with the current tarot channel, it was just going to be a little too. I mean, normally I wouldn't care, but I felt like it was going to be one video after another on dolls. So I just decided to go ahead and make a separate channel. So I will go ahead and link that for anybody interested in dolls. Mainly like the pull-ups, the Blythes, some Barbies, just random, kind of a random collector. But just like my normal channel, it's not going to be really consistent, very sporadic, very mood-based. So that's pretty much how I roll. So yes. So that was exciting. That was an unexpected, very kind of impulsive thing to start. But Candy over at Candy Soul and Soil, she has her own separate doll channel, and so she did a tag that was inspired by a tarot tag, like last 10 decks, she turned it into last 10 dolls. And so it just seemed like so much fun. And so I just decided to go ahead and and do a video response and make that my first video.
Love it. So everybody go, if you're interested in dolls, go follow Julie's new doll channel.
Yes, it's called The Doll Coven.
Since she will not advertise herself, we will force her.
We will just make her, whether she wanted to tell you or not.
Although,
Saying that this is a video on her channel. So
I was going to say, I can edit it out. No, but I won't.
we will know if she did, and we'll put it in comments
That's
instead.
true.
FYI, Julie edited out the information for her new doll channel. Go subscribe if you're into dolls.
All right, so I think that's it, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
All right, so thank you so much for hanging out with us as we talked about what we did in August. FYI, we have another episode of 3 Girls, 1 Deck coming on my channel September 9th, Saturday, September 9th. So be on the lookout for that notification. And until the next
Or make
time.
sure you check out the replay if you're watching this.
Yes, you can check out the replay.
Yeah.
So, yes, that's pretty much it. So, until the next time, much love and take care.